On April 10, 1912, the Titanic left the port of Southampton in England to head for New York with 2,200 passengers, having the assurance that the machine which transported them could not suffer shipwreck. But what they did not know was that the hull of the boat was weakened by fire during its first test on the sea, according to the Irish journalist Senan Maloney, of the photographs of the Titanic taken while it was still in Belfast where it was built. In these photos taken by one of the engineers in charge of the shipyards, Maloney identifies black streaks almost 10 meters high along the hull, in the same area where it was pierced by the iceberg. For Senan Maloney, behind the sinking of the Titanic hides a storm of extraordinary factors: fire, ice, and criminal negligence. Because the damage would obviously have been hidden from the passengers, in particular by presenting the other side of the hull when boarding, or with strict instructions for the officers not to mention the incident. This theory of the fire is not entirely new. Already in 2008, The Independent, whose Irish antenna employs Senan Maloney, relays the discoveries of Ray Boston, who argues that an uncontrollable fire was in progress in the coal cellars of the RMS Titanic, while still in the Belfast shipyards. The ship's owner, John Pierpont Morgan, was well aware of it, but hearing such news would have alarmed the passengers. And this incident would have ruined the credit of this boat, which was presented as the most luxurious, the safest and the largest ocean liner of all time. Finally, the crew of the ship was sworn and therefore had no right to spread such a matter. Last disturbing detail: Morgan quietly cancelled his ticket the day before the boat left. Later, the surviving crew members recalled that, late at night, this same owner of the Titanic had put his luggage back in the trunk of his Rolls waiting for him on the quay. Some historians try to explain the reason who motived J.P. Morgan to cancel its travel on Titanic. Did he know there was an out-of-control fire in coal bunker number? Money, a good servant, but a bad master. Because of petty interest, the owner of the Titanic hides the truth to protect the reputation of his boat with 2,200 passengers when he himself did not have the courage to embark on the ship. How many people in this world are suffering or are on the verge of death because the truth that could save them is being hidden from them? Among the 2,200, only 700 were able to come out alive from the trap that the infernal spirit had set for them. The majority, i.e. 1,500, dive with the Titanic broken in two. The water temperature is then -2 degrees Celsius. The Titanic resisted nearly 3 hours before flowing to nearly 4,000 meters deep. The story of the Titan partly resembles that of the Titanic. The refusal to accept the truth and to change plans which would avoid the loss of life of these 5 billionaire passengers, including French explorer Paul-Henri Nargeolet, British businessman Hamish Harding, Pakistani billionaire Shahzada Dawood and his son, and pilot and OceanGate Expeditions founder Stockton Rush. Because an employee was fired in 2018 after reporting safety issues on the submarine. In 2018, the director of marine operations for OceanGate, the company offering to visit the wreck of the Titanic, was fired after expressing concerns about the safety of the submarine. The former director of maritime operations had indeed expressed his fears, in particular because of insufficient tests on the hull and on the porthole located at the front of the submarine. The manufacturer ensured the reliability and safety of this window up to 1,300 meters, but not beyond, while the machine must dive to 4,000 meters deep. 2 months later, the company OceanGate received a letter signed by several seabed specialists, who denounced the experimental approach of the company and evoked potentially catastrophic problems. This letter was addressed to Director Stockton Rush, who is part of the missing crew. The refusal to accept and tell the truth can have serious consequences on the lives of the people in question and leave many other people in the dark about the dangers they are in. There is a third story that partly resembles that of the Titanic and the Titan, that of the empty tomb. In AD 31, the Roman guard guarding Joseph's tomb rushed through the streets of Jerusalem with a most astonishing message in their mouths that they barely maneuvered: "He is risen! He is risen!" A being of lightning aspect came down. He rolled away the stone with a simple gesture, and the Nazarene came out and said, "I am the resurrection and the life. Believe us, it's true." But the Jewish leaders of the time preferred to cover up the affair by giving money to these Roman guards by putting a lie in their mouths, say rather that his disciples came and take away his body while you slept. But the Roman soldiers knew that such testimony was punishable by death. And if the disciples had been proven guilty of such acts, the leaders would be the first to accuse them. But the Jewish leaders assured the soldiers that it was up to Pilate to have this matter published. Pilate, not wanting to believe the story that the Jewish leaders had put into the mouths of the soldiers, and the latter were forced to tell the truth. The tomb is empty because Jesus is risen. But unfortunately, this false testimony that the Jewish leaders had put in the mouths of the soldiers had time to spread in Palestine, preventing many people from accepting the truth that Jesus is risen.
You